were given to him there. It's actually a statue of all of the commanders of the Axis and Allied armies during D-Day. As we look across the room, you'll notice those little statues of saddles. Then there's a bronze over here on my left of a cowboy. Over here, the beautiful bald eagle. Those were all real and used by President Reagan in his Oval Office. I will talk to you about the resident desk in a moment, but this is a replica, it's not the real one. And the large conference room that the president has his staff meetings in. As you come around and you see this almost invisible door here, that's where each of you would be sitting behind that door as you're waiting your appointment with the President of the United States. You're also sitting with Secret Service and secretaries who are making sure that everything's okay for you to come on in. The private offices of the president, that's where a lot of business takes place. A lot of times this is more ceremonial and they will get down to big business in their office. There's also a dining room and a kitchen. And often on Thursdays, if both President Reagan and Vice President Bush were in town together, they would come and share Tex-Mex luncheons because they both love Mexican food. One being from Texas and the other from California. It goes out to the Rose Garden, and further on you can go out to where the Marine One will land and you can get on board there. All right. I want to tell you because there's a really cool history in all of this. This is called the resolute desk, or sometimes the Hayes resolute desk. Back in 1853, I know that little flash needs to not go off. That's okay. I know sometimes they get away from us. But in about 1853, the British ship called the Resolute was exploring up in the Arctic area. It got frozen in, and they abandoned ship. A few years later, it had broken loose and drifted, and an American whaling ship came across it, pulled it back to New York, outfitted it, fixed it up, sent it back to Queen Victoria. She was so touched by that generosity that 23 years helped many years before. Now, it didn't have this panel when it came. That was added by President FDR because he was in the post to use it in the Oval Office. And when he sat down, he said, there's a little problem. Either you have to lower my knees or raise the desk. And they decided raising the desk would be a little easier. The artifacts that are on top of his desk did belong to President Reagan, and he used them on his desk as well as the pictures back there. Now, I've been told you a lot of stuff. Does anybody have any questions? No? You see it, but I don't believe that there's all the secret compartments in this desk that there are in the movie Nicolas Cage. Yes. And you had a question. Mentions of what it was like in the White House. President Reagan respected this office so much, he wanted each of us to know what it feels like to walk into the Oval Office, because he knows most of us won't be in there. But, so these are the exact dimensions of what you see. It is decorated in the style that President Reagan chose for his second term, and that was in the Southwest colors, because as we know, he was a Western president from California, and he loved all the cowboy stuff and all of that kind of stuff, so the colors reflect the Southwest theme. Most of what you see in here are replicas, statues of, I forget who the artist was, but he made it to reflect all of the commanders of both the Axis and Allied armies during D-Day. As you look over here, we have the statues of the little saddles. There's a bust of a cowboy over there, and the beautiful bald eagle statue were all real and used by the president. As were, and I'll talk about these if we get the phone, which is of the era, it's the replica, did belong and were used by President Reagan on his desk, as well as the pictures on the back, which are mostly of family and with President Reagan, with his taste. Normally they go shopping in the National Archives, and that was, well, we do need your flash not to go off, please, thanks. And if you guys would move in, we have a few more people coming in. And usually they go into the National Archives and choose furniture and to be reupholstered. So there's money that they are given to do that. But again, the presidents are asked of when they redecorate, there's a few items that they're not supposed to change. The ceiling that you see above us, which has the presidential seal, they're usually encouraged to use a carpet on the thing. They can have a new one made to reflect the colors that they've chosen, but the presidential seal is usually reflected in the carpet. Also, the flags must always be in the office, one of the presidency and one of the United States of America. They are encouraged to keep the fireplace. So that's what we want to do that. Then it's also strongly encouraged that presidents have a picture of a particular person above the mantelpiece. Does anyone recognize who that is? It is General Washington. President Reagan chose this portrait of George Washington. It was painted to honor him for his first big victory during the Revolutionary War, which was the siege of Boston. Now, when you came in here,